The Amazon rainforest is not silent. It only pretends to be. Every year, satellites map its canopy. Scientists measure its rivers. Explorers push deeper than ever before. And yet, entire regions remain untouched, unrecorded, unexplained, because the Amazon does not reveal its past easily. Long before humans arrived, long before tribes carved symbols into stone, long before the jungle became what we recognize today, something ruled here. Not a myth, not a legend, but a creature so large, so powerful, that even crocodiles were prey. This is the true story of Titanoboa. A world that no longer exists. To understand Titanoboa, we must forget the Amazon as we know it. No dense rainforest, no towering trees choking the sunlight, no birds screaming from the canopy. 60 million years ago, the Earth had just survived a global catastrophe. The dinosaurs were gone, the sky had burned, the planet was healing. And in that healing world, something else began to rise. The temperature of the Earth was higher than today, much higher. There were no ice caps. The air was thick with humidity. Carbon levels were elevated. The tropics stretched farther than they ever would again, and reptiles thrived. Because reptiles do not generate their own heat, they borrow it from the world around them. The hotter the Earth, the larger they can grow. This is not speculation, it is physics. And the Amazon basin became a laboratory of gigantism. For decades, scientists believed large snakes evolved slowly, gradually, safely within limits, until a discovery shattered that assumption. In the early 2000s, deep in a Colombian coal mine, far from any jungle, miners uncovered fossilized vertebrae. At first glance, they seemed unremarkable, just bones, compressed by time. But when paleontologists examined them closely, something felt wrong. The vertebrae were too large, too thick, too dense. They belonged to a snake, but no snake that should have ever existed. When reconstructed, the numbers became impossible to ignore. Over 40 feet long, weighing more than 1,000 kilograms, wide enough to coil around a car. This was not an anaconda. This was not a python. This was something else entirely. They named it Titanoboa cerrejonensis, the Titan boa. Not a monster, a master. Titanoboa was not built for speed. It did not chase prey across land. It waited. Its body was thick, muscular, designed for constriction. Its jaw opened wider than any modern snake. Its strength was absolute. Crocodiles lived alongside it, early turtles, primitive mammals, and Titanoboa hunted them all. But here is the most important detail. Titanoboa did not dominate through aggression. It dominated through presence. Like Therizinosaurus on land, Titanoboa didn't need to fight often. It only needed to exist. The ancient Amazon. The Amazon River did not flow the way it does today. Its path was different. Its floodplains broader. Vast wetlands stretched across the basin. Shallow waters warmed by the sun, perfect for a creature that relied on heat. Titanoboa spent most of its life submerged, invisible, silent. A ripple in the water was the only warning. By the time prey realized something was wrong, it was already too late. Here's a truth most documentaries avoid. Titanoboa is not impossible. It is incompatible. The modern Earth is cooler. Even a few degrees matter. A snake of that size today would not generate enough heat to survive. It would be slow, lethargic, vulnerable. Titanoboa wasn't defeated. The planet changed. And when the temperature dropped, the king lost his throne. The jungle remembers. But extinction does not erase memory. Across the Amazon, indigenous tribes tell stories. Not identical, but similar. Stories of rivers that move, of shadows beneath the water, of serpents older than names. Anthropologists often dismiss these as symbolism, but symbolism comes from somewhere. And here's where the story becomes uncomfortable. Modern Amazon, unfinished maps. Even today, we have not mapped the entire Amazon floor. Satellite imagery cannot see beneath dense canopy. LiDAR reveals ruins, but only where we look. Entire regions remain unexplored not because we cannot reach them, but because we choose not to. Uncontacted tribes still live here, and they avoid outsiders for a reason. Some tribes refuse to settle near certain rivers, not due to flooding, not due to disease, but because of what lives there. They describe creatures that do not surface, that disturb water without wind, that leave no tracks. Modern scientists label this folklore, but the same scientists once denied the existence of giant squids, gorilla populations, coelacanth fish, until evidence forced humility. Titanoboa is extinct. That is scientifically certain, but its story is not isolated. It represents a pattern. When the Earth is warmer, life becomes larger, and the Amazon is heating again, not to ancient levels, not yet, but enough to raise uncomfortable questions. Today's explorations. In recent decades, expeditions have uncovered massive prehistoric river systems, fossils still buried beneath jungle soil, unknown species appearing every year. The Amazon is not fully known, it is partially tolerated. The jungle does not preserve memory the way humans do. It does not write. It does not build monuments. It absorbs. Every fallen tree becomes soil. Every dead creature becomes nutrients. Every extinction becomes silence. But silence does not mean absence, because some histories are not erased. They are buried. After the king fell. When Titanoboa vanished, the Amazon did not suddenly become empty. Smaller snakes evolved. Crocodilians adapted. Mammals grew bolder. But something fundamental had changed. The apex predator was gone. And whenever the top of a food chain collapses, the entire system reshapes itself. Rivers narrowed, wetlands fragmented, forests thickened. The Amazon slowly transformed into the dense, layered jungle we know today. A place where visibility is limited, movement is restricted, and size becomes a disadvantage. The world that created Titanoboa no longer existed, but traces of that world remained, locked beneath layers of time. Buried Amazon. Modern explorers often imagine the Amazon as timeless. It is not. Beneath the roots, beneath the mud, beneath the rivers, lies a different landscape entirely. Ancient riverbeds, fossilized swamps, sediment layers packed with bones. When scientists drill deep enough, they don't just find fossils, they find patterns. Patterns of warming, patterns of cooling, patterns of dominance and collapse. Titanoboa was not an anomaly. It was the peak of a cycle. The problem with human confidence. Here is a mistake we repeat constantly. We assume that because we have not seen something, it cannot exist. The Amazon covers over 5.5 million square kilometers. Less than a fraction of it has been explored on foot, even less underwater. Rivers here are not clear. They are dark, sediment-heavy, oxygen-poor, perfect for hiding large, slow-moving creatures. And this is where science becomes uncomfortable. Because science depends on observation, and observation is limited. When modern sightings begin. Every few years a report surfaces, a fisherman describing water moving against the current, a research team noting unusually large disturbances, aerial footage capturing shapes that disappear before analysis. these reports are quickly dismissed. Too vague, too inconsistent, too inconvenient. But dismissal is not investigation, and history has punished that mindset before. The giant squid parallel. For centuries, sailors spoke of enormous, tentacled creatures dragging ships into the deep. Science laughed, until cameras finally captured the giant squid alive. Not mythical, not exaggerated, just unseen. Titanoboa teaches the same lesson. Not that it still exists, but that our understanding is incomplete. Tribal knowledge is not myth, but it is memory. Uncontacted and semi-contacted tribes do not speak in measurements. They speak in behavior. They don't say 40 feet long. They say the river closes. They don't say apex predator. They say do not go there. Some tribes mark certain waterways as forbidden, not sacred, not cursed, simply dangerous. These warnings are not dramatized, they are practical. And practicality comes from experience. Why these stories survive. Fear-based myths fade when danger disappears. Yet these stories persist, generation after generation, which means the environment still reinforces them. Not with Titanoboa itself, but with the idea of something too large to challenge. That idea shapes behavior, and behavior shapes survival. The modern Amazon is not stable. Climate data shows the Amazon is changing again. Temperatures are rising. Flood cycles are intensifying. Ecosystems are shifting. This does not mean Titanoboa will return, but it does mean the conditions that once allowed giants are no longer impossible. Nature does not repeat itself exactly, but it rhymes. Why we are obsessed with giants. Humans are drawn to lost giants for a reason. They remind us that we are not the peak of history. We are not the final form. We are not in control of the planet. Titanoboa forces humility. It shows us a world where mammals were minor characters, where dominance was silent, where power did not announce itself. It waited. Extinction is not failure. Titanoboa did not fail. It did not lose to another predator. It lost to change. And that may be the most important lesson buried beneath the Amazon. Survival is not about strength. It is about compatibility. The Amazon today, a warning, not a mystery. When explorers venture deep into untouched regions today, they often report the same feeling. Not fear, but unease. A sense that they are not the dominant presence. That the jungle is tolerating them, not welcoming them. This is not superstition. It is instinct. The same instinct that kept early humans alive. What Titanoboa really represents. Titanoboa is not a monster story. It is a climate story, an ecosystem story, a collapse story. It reminds us that the planet creates what it can sustain and removes what it no longer can. No warning, no mercy, no drama, just transition. And the story does not end here, because Titanoboa was not the only giant. The Amazon has hosted massive crocodilians, enormous turtles, mammals the size of vehicles, each one tied to conditions that no longer exist. Or do they? The jungle is older than memory, older than maps, older than certainty, and somewhere beneath its rivers and roots, the past still breathes, not alive, but not forgotten.